Ut autem, sero factum est, festinaverunt servi illius ad hospitia sua, et conclusit Vagao, ostia, cubiculi, et abiit. Ooh, things are getting juicy here. Okay, so first thing we notice is we have ut, but ut in this instance does not have a subjunctive verb. So it's not a funky subjunctive clause. Ut plus a normal indicative verb just means as. Another thing to notice is factum has a So that tells us, well, it's not a him or a her, it's neuter, so it's being used impersonally, it. So let's see here. Ut, moreover, it was made or it became late, which makes sense because we're talking about a crazy dinner party where Holofernes has invited Judith, and Holofernes has drunk more than he has ever drunk in his entire life. So apparently it takes a long time to do that. So now it became late, i.e. late at night. As, moreover, it became late. Let's see what happens next. Festinaverunt. They hurried. Who hurried? The slaves. Whose slaves? His slaves. So his slaves hurried ad hospitia sua. So that literally means to their hospitality. I think what they mean is it's a dinner party and there are lots of people running around. So the slaves have conveniently gone to maybe entertain the other guests at the party. So his slaves hurried to their hospitality and conclusit. Well, look, this is a singular verb, which means it's got one person. And he closed. Who closed something? Oh, Vagao closed something. Vagao closed ostia cubiculi. So let's pretend you've forgotten the word ostia because you're a normal Latin student. Let's think about the context. Vagao closed the blank of the bedroom and he left. Well, knowing the context, what do we think ostia means? Hopefully you figured it out. Notice ostia is neuter plural. He closed the doors of the bedroom, which makes sense in this very inappropriate context because Holofernes is trying to seduce Judith. Moreover, as it was made late, his slaves hurried to their entertainment, the entertainment of the guests, and Vagao shut the doors of the bedroom, and abiit. By now you should know this word. I like that there's a prefix on top of a root that you already know, and he literally went from. Vagao left. Oh, this is getting spicy. Erant autem, omnes fatigati a vino, eratque Judith sola in cubiculo. Poro, Holofernes jacebat in lecto, nimia ebrietate sopitus. Moreover, they were, who were? Everyone. Oh, everyone was fatigati a vino. Everyone was perfect passive participle, plural. Everyone was something to buy the wine. Hopefully you recognize that. Everyone was fatigued, wiped out by the wine. Again, this is a great lesson in self-control and not drinking. So everyone was wiped out by the wine, and erat, Judith was alone in the bedroom. Okay. Furthermore, or far off, Holofernes was lying in bed. Sopitus, having been somethinged by too much drunkenness. Again, stop running for the dictionary. Can you think about what sopitus means? Holofernes was lying in his bed, having been somethinged by too much drunkenness. Hopefully you've come to the conclusion, the rational conclusion, that sopitus means like put to sleep or something. So what's going on grammatically? We have a prepositional phrase here, and we have a noun adjective pair here. Ebrietate is ablative, and nimia is an ablative adjective modifying it. One more time. Far off, Holofernes was lying in bed, having been wiped out by too much drunkenness. Do not drink ever, or especially with strange people you don't know around you. So notice how the author is really painting a picture here, right? He sets us up. He's like, if you were putting a picture here, there would be Judith standing alone in the bedroom. And in the distance, in the background, we've got Holofernes lying in bed all drunk. Dixitque Judith, puellae suae, ut staret foris ante cubiculum et observaret. Okay, this one's not too complicated grammatically. And Judith said, now, we didn't know this, but apparently her slave girl was with her, and she calls her, they say, to her girl. Judith said to her girl, i.e. her slave girl. And it's not really she said, but it's more like she commanded, because we're getting an indirect statement here. She said that, we've got ut plus a subjunctive. Ut plus a subjunctive, staret. She said that she should stand outside. Where outside? Outside in front of the bedroom. And what else should the slave girl do? Judith said that she should stand outside the bedroom and she should observe. So again, we've got an indirect command, and we know that it's an indirect command because the main verb is of commanding or saying in this instance. We've got ut plus one subjunctive, staret, and another subjunctive, observaret. Stetitque Judith ante lectum orans cum lacrimis et labiorum motu in silentio. Okay, the translation. And she stood. Who stood? Judith stood. Where did she stand? Ante lectum, in front of the bed. Remember the bed where the drunk guy is laying? And what was she doing? Orans, nominative singular participle. She's praying. Nominative singular present active participle. Judith stood praying, and then we have a prepositional phrase here, more description. Praying with tears, because apparently this is a very emotional moment. And not only with tears, but with the motion of her lips, prepositional phrase, in silence. So actually, I'm going to erase this here because I think the prepositional phrase actually goes here. She was standing with tears and with a motion of silence, or with the motion of her lips in silence. So apparently she feels compelled to pray even in front of this drunk sleeping man, but she doesn't want to disturb him. That's why she's doing it with the motion of her lips, but there's no noise, in silence. So maybe she's whispering. And then we go on. Dicens. Oh, nominative singular participle. We know that because of the ns. And let's see, we had orans, oopsies, orans, which should be highlighted, not scribbled out. Orans and dicens as nominative singular participles, modifying Judith over here. So let's see what Judith says in her silent prayer to God. Confirma me, Domine Deus Israel, et respica in hac hora ad opera manuum mearum, ut sicut promissisti Jerusalem civitatem tuam erigas, et hoc quod credens per te posse fieri cogitavi perficiam. Well, so she's saying this silently with just her lips, and apparently it's really long too. So the first thing to notice is we have a couple of imperatives here. She's praying to God in the imperative mood. Look, confirma and respica. Those are both imperatives there. So she's saying, hey God, strengthen, confirma, strengthen me, O God of Israel, and look back, i.e. on me. Then we have a prepositional phrase. Look back in this hour, okay, and another prepositional phrase, at the work of my hands. So gosh, God, strengthen me and look back right now at the work of my hands. Notice opera has an A because it's neuter plural accusative. At the work of the hands, of my hands there. Okay, so that's your imperative, and then it gets more interesting. We have we have a so that clause, a purpose clause there. And remember, we know it's a purpose clause. We've got ut plus a subjunctive, so that something is going to happen. Before we get to the stuff in between, we'll make it simple. So that you can encourage, there's one subjunctive verb and your other one, and so that I can do. Now let's fill in the blanks. So that before we get into all the details, she gives us a general side comment, just like you promised. So God, help me out so that, just like you promised you would, so that you can encourage, and here's your direct object of what she wants God to encourage, Jerusalem, your city. So this whole phrase here is the direct object of your first verb in the purpose clause, so that you can encourage Jerusalem, your city. And we've got this at here, and then we're going to go back to the ut, so that perficiam, your subjunctive verb, I can do. Where you're like, well, so that I can do what? Why are you skipping around? Because it's really complicated. So that I can do, and here's your second direct object, this thing. So we have verb 1 with your direct object here, and verb 2 with your direct object here. So that you can encourage your city, and so that I can accomplish this thing. And of course, Judith has more stuff to say about this thing, and she's going to do it in a really big relative clause starting here. Which thing are we hoping to do? Okay, so your relative clause is going to start with this quod, and it's going to go all the way down here, cogitavi. Okay, so this thing which, cogitavi is the main verb of your relative clause. This thing which I thought was able to happen. So there's a verb of your relative clause. Gosh, God, please help me out so that I can accomplish this thing which I thought was able to happen. And then we get some more descriptions about when she thought it would be able to happen. I thought could happen, and I was trusting, credanes, nominative singular, which, trusting in you, I thought could happen, per te, through you. Okay, so one more time. So that I can accomplish hoc. Notice it's only 2 words, but they have to give us a whole bunch of description to go through it. So that I can accomplish this thing, which I thought was able to happen through you, and I was trusting at the time. And look at this crazy word order thing. Oh my gosh, this makes Latin so much fun. Check it out. So this phrase, per te, this obviously means through you, through God. And so she could be saying, I thought that I could accomplish this, i.e. through your power. That's one way of looking at it. Or she could say, trusting through you, I thought I could do this. And the cool thing is this whole phrase that's talking about God's power through you is in the middle of her act of believing, credanes, and the thing that she wants to accomplish. So that shows how she can do that in Latin word order. That per te can go in either direction. It can be trusting through you, or I thought it could happen through you. But either way, God is right in the middle of both the faith and the action that she's trying to accomplish. That was a fun sentence. Okay, so we're done praying. Now let's go see some action. Et cum haec dixicit, accessit ad columnam quae erat ad caput lectuli eius, et pugionem eius, qui in ea legatus pendebat, exalvit. And, oh look, we've got a boring cum clause. Haven't seen one of those in a while. Cum plus a subjunctive verb. So here's one chunk. When she had said these things, she went up to, ascended, approached. Where did she approach? To a column. And here's a relative clause describing the column. Starting at the qui. The column, quae, goes there. The column which was at the head of the little bed of him. So apparently Holofernes is passed out on this little bed. So the column which was at the head of the bed, and eius is modifying that noun, lectuli, of his little bed. So maybe it's like a couch thing. Okay, one thing to notice here is, and you're going to want this for grammar purposes later, the column is an am and quae is feminine. And that's important. You have a column, which is a feminine first declension noun. And then you have quae, which is feminine because it's talking about the column. The column, which was, at the top of his bed. So she went to that column, which was there. And what else should she do? And the knife of him. Uh-oh, now we've got some action. We have a knife in the accusative, his knife. What about his knife? Oh, of course, a relative clause describing it. His knife, which, oops, sorry, that doesn't go there. Then qui goes back to the knife, which on something feminine was hanging, having been tied. So apparently in the olden days, you sleep with your knife hanging off the column of your bed. Okay, so ea, notice, is feminine because it's talking about the column. So the knife is hanging on the column. That's why those are both feminine. See how those sneaky grammar tricks come back to you? Ea and column. So, but I know you want to see what happens. So let's see. And his knife, which was hanging on it, having been tied, perfect passive participle, she exalwit. Can you guess what exalwit means? She loosened, grabbed, snagged. So let's keep going. She grabbed that knife. Cum que evagenisset illum, apprehendet comam capitis eius et abiit, confirma me, Domine Deus, in hoc hora. And when evagenisset illum, oh my gosh, talk about etymology. We're going to discuss that word in class together. Okay, but anyways, I'll translate it for you. And when she had unsheathed it, being the knife, she grabbed the hair, oh, this is getting really exciting, of the head of him, and she said, what did she say? Well, the same thing she said before. Strengthen me, Lord God, in this hour. Talk about exciting. Okay, so a little more grammar here. Notice here we've got a nice cum clause, cum, plus a pluperfect subjunctive. When she had unsheathed the knife, we've talked about comam. Okay, abiit is a funky word. It just means said. We've got an imperative here, strengthen me, Lord God, and then a prepositional phrase, in this hour. Et percussit bis in caricum eius, et abscidit caput eius, et obstulet canopeum eius a columnis, et evolvit corpus eius truncum. Oh, well, this is pretty exciting. And, oh, here we go. Translation first. And she struck 2 times. Where did she strike? Oh, on the neck of him. So prepositional phrase, eius is talking about the neck. She struck 2 times on his neck. Uh-oh, this is getting gory. And she abscidit his head. What happens if you strike 2 times on the neck of a guy with his own knife? Oh, and she cut off the head, and then again another genitive, of him. Oh, do you need a moment of silence? Well, I'm in the middle of the sentence, so you're just going to have to wait. And she grabbed the canopy of him. Remember, he was on that he was in a bed with a fancy canopy. She grabbed his canopy. We'll explain why later. From the columns, prepositional phrase. And what else did she do? And she tossed back, thrust away the body, his body. And what state was his body in? A nice little adjective described him. His mutilated body, because now it's just a trunk since there's no head on it. Ooh, talk about gross. Okay, a little bit of grammar here. Corpus is neuter. That's why it ends in a us, but it's the direct object of evolvit. And she tossed the body of him. Do you notice how they keep giving you eius of him all the time? And then truncum is neuter accusative, modifying corpus. Again, the reason they don't look the same is because corpus, that's just the ending of that word. It's a third declension noun. Okay, so she tossed aside the mutilated body of him. Well, we have to keep going. Et exivit, et tradidit caput Holofernes, ancillae suae, et usit ut mitteret illud in peram suam. Okay, so I'm thinking that maybe the canopy thing, she grabbed it because she's got like this disgusting gory head in her hand. So maybe she needed that fancy cloth to like wrap it up, but it doesn't really say it. It just says that she cut off his head and grabbed the canopy. But what else are you going to do with a big cloth thing and a dead head? And she went and handed the head of Holofernes and ancillae suae to her slave girl. Well, isn't that convenient? If you're going to chop off a guy's head, you don't have to carry it yourself. Give it to your slave girl. Okay, so this is your verb. Here's your direct object. Holofernes is modifying the head. Ancillae suae, of course, is your indirect object, the dative. And she ordered that. Oh, hopefully you guys are saying, oh, I bet you there's an indirect statement coming because the main verb is ordering. I'm sorry, it's an indirect command. And we have ut. And then here's the subjunctive. She ordered that she, the slave girl, place or send it, put it, where? In param suam. In param, the first time I read this text, I'd never seen the word param before. So I took a couple guesses. Let's see, you've got a gory head, you've got a slave girl. I'm hoping that she has like a trash bag or something to put it in. Param is actually the word for like bag. So she's like, hey, slave girl. And she ordered her to put it into her bag because her slave girl has a handy bag for which to carry this head. Yucko. Et exierunt duae secundum consuetudinem suam quasi ad orationem et transierunt castra et gerantes valum venerunt ad portam civitatis. Well, what do you do after you chop off the guy's head? How the heck are you going to make it out? And they left. Notice duae is feminine, the two of them. That would be Judith and her sidekick. They left. Oh, nice prepositional phrase. Secundum consuetudinem suam. According to their custom. Well, wait, what custom are we talking about? We'll have to see. Quasi, as if, ad orationem, to pray. Oh, that's right, because do you remember? She had already gotten Holofernes to say, it's fine, these girls can go out and pray whenever they want in the middle of the night, not a big deal. So, they left, just like they normally do, as if to pray, and they crossed over the camp. They walked through the camp. Notice the word here, trans is across, errant is the verb of going. So they literally went through the camps and circling the valley. By the way, we saw this verb before. That's what Holofernes was doing when he found the fountains. And circling the valley. What else happened? Let's see. They came to this prepositional phrase, the gate, right there, ad portam, of the city. Okay, so there's your getaway. You go out as if praying, but you're actually doing illicit, gory things. Et Dixitque Judith a longe custodibus murorum abiit portas, quoniam nobis cum est Deus, qui fecit virtutem in Israel. Okay, here we go. Let's see. And Judith from afar said to the guards of the walls, open the gates, since with us is God, who made strength, courage, manliness, anything other than virtue in Israel. Okay, so let's see. Subject, verb, prepositional phrase. Custodibus is dative. She said it to them. And murorum, the guards of the walls, genitive plural, talking about the guards. Abiit is imperative plural, ite. Portas, accusative plural. We've got a since clause. Notice the word nobis cum. It's normally cum nobis, but the Romans like to shove it together and make it pretty that way. Nobis cum. With us is God, and then of course we get a nice relative clause. Qui is talking about God, who made courage, strength, manliness, anything other than virtue in Israel. Et factum est cum audiissent viri vocum eius, vocaverunt presbyteros civitatis. And it happened, and hopefully by now you guys are used to saying this factum est. It's neuter, and it's always an it thing. It was happened, it was done, it was made, it happened. It happened when, cum clause with a subjunctive verb, they had heard. Who had heard? When the men had heard. When they had heard what? The voice of her. So there's your cum clause. And it happened when the guys heard her voice. Let's see. They called the elders of the city. Civitatis, of course, is genitive talking about presbyteros. Et concurrerunt ad eam omnes ad minimo usque ad maximum, quoniam sperebant eam iam non esse vinteram. And they ran to her. Everybody ran to her. Okay, before we get on to the next part, let's look at the grammar here. Plural, erunt, that's easy. Oh my gosh, that's so Latin one. They ran. Ad omnes, to her, or ad eam. Eam, of course, is Judith, feminine, accusative, singular. Omnes is the subject of concurrerunt. Okay, ad minimo, from the smallest to the greatest. So, what do they mean here? Are we talking short people and tall people? Or are we talking the youngest of the elders to the greatest of the elders? Or maybe the least important to the most important? They're trying to emphasize a whole crap ton of people ran to her, pretty much everybody. And I think it's all of those. The least to the greatest, youngest to oldest. All the people ran to her. Because, why? Well, we'll find out. Quoniam. Since, now this is funny. You know how words have multiple meanings? Sperebant usually means to hope, but it's kind of weird here. When you hope, you're thinking about something that you're hopeful will happen in the future. But the literal translation is, since they're hoping that she now would not come, and that makes no flippin' sense because obviously they're hoping that she would come. But I think what he's saying is, since they were thinking or anticipating, because when you hope you anticipate, they were anticipating that she now would not come because they sent an unarmed pretty girl off to the Assyrian camp. I don't think they were really expecting her to come back, and when they found out that she showed up, they all ran to see. Like, what? Hey, she's back already? We thought she was a dead duck. So I think that's what's going on here. So let's look. Sperebant is a verb of anticipating or thinking. And this whole thing here is a construction you're going to learn about later, and it's called an indirect statement. They were hoping that she, Judith, now, and then here is, get this, a future active infinitive, would come. So they were thinking that she would not now come. That's why they're all excited to see her. Don't worry, I'm not going to hold you accountable for this grammar that you haven't learned yet, but it's coming in January. Et accendentes luminaria congeraverunt circa am una versi, illa autem ascendens in eminentiorum locum usit fieri silentium. Okay, this one's pretty simple. And lighting their lanterns. I'm not looking any of this vocab up, but it kind of makes sense. Accendo, right? Luminaria. So, lighting their lanterns because she shows up in the middle of the night. They gathered around her. Who did? Everybody. Okay, notice we've got a prepositional phrase here. Pretty simple. We'll keep going. She, moreover, climbing or going into a more eminent place, so maybe like a podium or something, a more important spot. Oh, she's going to talk to them. She ordered silence to happen. Hey guys, shush. I need to tell you what the scoop is. Cumque omnes tacuissent, Dixitque Judith, laudate Dominum Deum nostrum, qui non deseruit sperantes in se, et in me, ancilla sua, autem plevit misericordiam suam, quam promissit Domine Israel, et interfecit in manu mea hostem populi sui hoc nocte. Oh, this is nice. So she's going to make a speech. What does she say? And when everybody, look, cum clause there, we've got a cum plus a superlative subjunctive, tacuissent. When everybody had shut up, because you need them to be quiet, Judith said, and she said an imperative, praise, we'll translate it first. Let's see. Praise the, not that one. Our Lord God, of course. And then we get a relative clause here talking about our Lord God, who did not desert the ones hoping in him. And in me, your slave girl, he filled up his mercy. His mercy, and then another relative clause. We got that one, and we got this one. What about his mercy? His mercy, which he promised to the house of Israel. I love relative clauses. And he killed in my hand the enemy of his people on this night. Okay, let's go unpack some of this grammar. Okay, so praise our Lord God, who did not desert. Oh, notice he does not desert the people hoping. How do we know that? Es, accusative plural. Ante, present active participle. It's literally, he did not desert hoping, i.e., and it's understood that people hoping or trusting in him, prepositional phrase. Okay, and in me, another prepositional phrase, that's ablative. And ancilla sua is describing the me. And in me, his slave girl, Adam Playwit, he filled up his mercy. Relative clause describing his mercy. Quam is feminine because misericordiam is feminine. What mercy? The mercy which he promised, dative, to the house of Israel. And he killed, prepositional phrase, in my hand, hostem, direct object. The enemy, populi sui, genitive describing hostem, the enemy of his people. Hoc nocte is ablative, because when you're talking about when things happen, you use what they call the ablative of time when. He killed the enemy of his people on this night. Et proferens de pera caput Holofernes, ostendet illis dicens, ecce caput Holofernes, principis militiae Assyriorum, et ecce canopeum illius, in quo recumbebat in ebrietate sua, ubi per manum feminae percussit illum Dominus Deus noster. Ooh, she just kicked his butt. Okay. And, oh, look at this word proferens. Okay, don't freak out. You should see the NS makes it a participle. There, that's the root of pharaoh, bringing forth. Oh, okay, so that word means bringing forth. And bringing forth from her bag, bringing forth what? The head. Whose head? Of Holofernes. Bringing forth from her bag the head of Holofernes, she showed to them, illis, dative plural, she showed to them, saying, check it out. The head of Holofernes. Who's Holofernes? The chief of the military of the Assyrians. And check it out. What else do I have in this magic bag of mine? The canopy of that guy. Genitive singular. In which, oh, look, we've got a relative clause describing the canopy. And it's probably going to be more than just in which, right? Because relative clauses are usually bigger. So hold on. Let's fix that. Oh, I guess we're just going to have to live with it. In which he was reclining in drunkenness, in his own drunkenness, where through the hand of a woman, a prepositional phrase, feminized, describing it, through the hand of a woman. Our God struck him. Ha! So that's enough for you, Holofernes. Vivit autem ipse dominus, quoniam custodiuit me angulus eius et hinc eontem et ibi commorantem et inde huc revertentem et non permissit me dominus ancillam suam coinquinari, sed sine pollutione peccate revocavit me vobis gaudentum in victoria sua. That is long, and we're just going to crank this out. Okay. Moreover, God himself lives. Here's proof that God is alive, she says. You should know quoniam by now. So she's going through this list of things that proves that God is alive. Okay, so thing number one. Oh, his angel. Okay, his angel. So we have angulus, eius, genitive. His angel guarded me. Okay, so we know that God is alive because his angel guarded me. Notice we have et, both and. So when did God's angel guard Judith? Both going from here, going from this place. So Judith made it safely to the camp of the Assyrians. So that's proof number one. We're going to make a list. Going here, from here, the angel guarded me. So that's proof of God's existence. And there, ibi, in that place, commorantem, I was staying there. So here's proof number two. Notice these things are participles in the accusative case, all talking about may, right? Going to that place, or going from here, eontem, staying in that place, commorantem, et inde huc revertentem. Oh, look, a third participle. So God guarded me when I was going there, God guarded me when I was there, and he guarded me returning from there to this place. So God kept me safe on every leg of my trip. Okay, so this is all proof that God is alive. What else is going on? And no, he did not permit me. Who did not? God did not permit me, his slave girl. Oh, nice passive infinitive here. To be like defiled or, yes, polluted. God did not permit me, his slave girl, to be molested et sine, and without the pollution of sin. He recalled me to you. And we've got another participle talking about Judith. He called me back to you, rejoicing in his victory. So we've got one, God guarded her when she was leaving from Bethulia. God guarded her. Number two, when she was staying in the camp of the Assyrians. God guarded her. Number three, when she was returning back to Bethulia, she didn't fall into a hole or twist her ankle. And God did not permit her to be attacked, defiled, coinquinari, when she was in the camp. And he called her back to them. And this is all proof in Judith's mind of the existence of God. So these are all good times that he guarded her, and we're going to keep going. In my evasion, right, because she had to escape with a bloody head in her bag. And when else did God guard her? In your liberation, right here. So God is taking care of her, and by definition, the people of Bethulia, in all these different ways. She's like, there's no way a girl could have done this on her own without God's help. That's pretty cool. And we will finish up. Confitemini illi omnes quoniam bonus, quonam in saeculum misericordia eius. So this is a confitemini. It is an imperative of a deponent verb. You haven't learned that form yet, but just trust me. It means trust. So she's saying, hey, all you guys, trust in him, because bonus, it's understood, he is good, and because his mercy is in the age or forever and ever. So that's pretty glorious there. And now we're going to stop.